I'm Brian Pilarski with Buy Insurance Better. Today we're going to do a read the policy segment. So we're going to read what the policy says about a certain type of event and how the insurance would respond to it. Let's talk today about vacancy or a vacant location. Often we hear a building is vacant and we may not think too much about it, but in the insurance world, the policy, when I hear it, when the insurance company hears it, it is a very important term because the coverage changes based on whether or not the building's vacant. Every insurance policy, and I'm specifically talking about the property insurance, they will define what vacancy means. So what is a vacant or unoccupied location? And there are two different types of occupants of a building. There's a tenant and there's an owner. And in some situations, you might be a tenant where your lease requires you to insure it fully as you were the owner. So that would be in the owner category. So let's look at vacancy. How this insurance policy defines it is if you're a tenant, the building is vacant when it does not contain enough business personal property to conduct customary operations. So if it's an office, let's say, is there enough chairs, monitors, copiers, all those things to conduct business operations? If not, it may be deemed vacant and the policy changes the coverage. If it has enough there, by definition, you meet the qualification if it's not vacant. So the policy is normal, everything else remains the same, no issues. Moving on to the second part of this section of the property policy is when a policy is issued to an owner, when at least 31% of that building is occupied by a tenant or it's used by the owner of the building for operations, that is considered not vacant. So if at least 31% is occupied by a tenant, we're good to go. It's not vacant. Traditional policy provisions apply. If it's under 31% and unoccupied, then it is considered vacant. Now there's a time frame here we're going to get to. Another note here I have highlighted on the second part of the owner, buildings under construction or renovation are not considered vacant. So if things are cleared out and you're doing renovations or updates or what have you, and something happens during that, the property policy is going to respond as normal. Vacancy provisions. So let's get to this. Now, if the building where the damage occurs, so the insurance company is not going to care if it's occupied or not, unless you're going to them for a claim, you want money, something happened, they're going to say, okay, what's going on in the building? If it's been vacant for more than 60 days, and remember vacant, they defined it as not enough property in there to conduct business as a tenant, not 31% occupied, and it's for 60 consecutive days or longer, the insurance company will not pay for loss or damage caused by the following types of events: vandalism, sprinkler leakage, that's the overhead sprinklers, not the lawn sprinklers, building glass breakage, water damage, which is big, pipe burst, faucets run, leaks happen. If it's unoccupied for 52 days, this stuff can really ramp up. At 62 days, we're in a lot of trouble. Theft or attempted theft. If the building is vacant and these happen, the insurance company is denying your claim. They're not paying anything. You're not off the hook necessarily if something else happens, let's say a wind. As you see number 2 here, with respect to covered cause of loss other than those listed above, this insurance company would pay what they would otherwise pay, but they would reduce it by 15%. So let's say some wind knocked the building down, and the building was vacant for 60 consecutive days or longer, it would pay for the loss of the building, but it would reduce your final payout by 15% because the building was vacant. If you have an unoccupied location, or you're not using a location, or a tenant moved out of one that you own, or if you talk with your representative or your insurance advisor on what it means to your policy and what fixes you need to make sure that coverage applies fully for whatever situation you have going on. I'm Brian Pilarski with Buy Insurance.